My name is Samantha, and if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I don't go digging for drama. I don't open other people's drawers, I don't read texts over shoulders, I don't accidentally listen at doors. I grew up in a family where privacy was treated like a fragile thing. You respected it because once it broke, it never really went back the same way. That's why the day my uncle asked me to hold on to an envelope for him, I didn't think I was stepping into anything dangerous. I thought it was going to be something boring, something simple, a check, a document, a letter he didn't want to forget. Nothing about the envelope screamed trouble. It was just thick paper sealed with my name written on a sticky note in his messy handwriting. Sam, please keep this safe. That was it. And yet that envelope ended up cracking open more than paper. It cracked open my entire understanding of my family. It happened on a Sunday afternoon, right after my aunt hosted a small lunch. Our family did these gatherings on autopilot, food on the table, polite small talk, the same jokes repeated every holiday, and a thin layer of everything's fine painted over whatever was actually happening beneath the surface. My uncle, Rick, had always been one of the more complicated people in our family. He wasn't cruel, but he carried his stress like a storm cloud, always shifting mood, always half distracted. He had a way of speaking that sounded like he was trying to get to the end of the conversation as fast as possible, even when the topic mattered. When I was younger, I thought it was just his personality. As an adult, I started to realize it was something else: fear, pressure, secrets. That day, Rick pulled me aside while everyone else was outside eating dessert. He did it quickly, like he didn't want anyone to notice. He stood in the hallway near the coat closet and held out an envelope, thick and stiff like it had more than one sheet inside. Sam, he said quietly, I need you to hold on to this for me. I blinked, confused. Hold on to it, why? He didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked toward the living room, then back to me. Just keep it safe, he said. Don't leave it lying around. And don't tell anyone I gave it to you. My stomach tightened. Uncle Rick, what is it? He shook his head too fast. It's nothing illegal, he said, which was a weird thing to say unless someone might suspect otherwise. Then he forced a laugh that sounded hollow. It's just personal. I hesitated. Why me? Because you're responsible, he said, and the way he said it made it feel like he was begging without using the word. You're not like some people, you won't misplace it. And you won't ask a bunch of questions. Except I was. Already asking questions before I could say anything else, he pressed the envelope into my hands. It felt heavier than paper should feel, like the weight inside it wasn't just physical. And then he leaned in slightly and said the sentence that made my skin prickle. If anything happens, if I don't come by tomorrow, don't open it. Just bring it to me. Promise. My throat went dry. If anything happens? I repeated. What do you mean? Rick's jaw tightened. Just promise me, he said again, his voice low and urgent. I nodded because I didn't know what else to do, and because something in his eyes looked genuinely scared. Okay, I promise. He let out a breath like he'd been holding it in for days, then walked back outside as if nothing had happened. But I didn't follow. I stood in the hallway staring at the envelope, my fingers tracing the sealed flap. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting. My uncle was dramatic. He always had been. Maybe it was paperwork about his business. Maybe it was something involving money. Maybe he was preparing something for my aunt and didn't want her to see it yet. There were so many normal explanations, but the problem was that my Uncle Rick didn't act normal when things were normal. That night, I put the envelope in my dresser drawer under a folded sweater, exactly where I kept things I didn't want to lose. I went through my routine shower, skincare, scrolling on my phone in bed, but my mind kept circling back to Rick's words. If anything happens, don't open it, promise. The next morning I woke up to a text from my aunt. Have you seen Rick? He didn't come home last night. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like the air left my lungs. I called her immediately. What do you mean he didn't come home? Her voice sounded tight, controlled, the way people sound when they're trying not to panic. He said he was going to stop by his office after lunch, she said. He never came back. His phone goes straight to voicemail. A cold wave of fear washed through me. I looked at my dresser drawer like it might open itself. Did he say anything weird yesterday? My aunt asked. I hesitated. Rick had told me not to tell anyone, but he'd also said if anything happens. And now something had happened. He gave me something, I admitted carefully. An envelope. He asked me to keep it safe. Silence. What? My aunt said, her voice sharp now. He gave you an envelope. Yes, I whispered. He told me not to open it, just to hold it. Her breathing changed. Oh my God, she muttered. Oh my God, Sam? What? I asked, fear rising. What's going on? My aunt didn't answer directly. Stay home, she said quickly. Don't go anywhere, I'm coming over. When she arrived 20 minutes later, her face was pale. She didn't even take off her shoes. She walked straight into my living room as if she owned the air, as if she needed to find something immediately. Where is it? She asked. I swallowed hard. In my dresser. I led her to my bedroom, hands shaking as I opened the drawer and pulled the envelope out. My aunt snatched it from my hands like it was a live wire. It's sealed, I said quickly. I didn't open it. My aunt stared at the envelope, then at me. You didn't? She repeated, and her voice cracked. With something like relief. No, I said. But I almost did. Last night. I didn't because he made me promise. My aunt's eyes glistened. Thank God, she whispered. Thank God. Why? I asked. Aunt Linda, what is this? She pressed her lips together. Rick has been dealing with something, she said carefully. Something he didn't tell the whole family. That's not an answer, I said, my voice shaking. He's missing. He didn't come home. And he gave me this like he expected something to happen. My aunt's hands tightened around the envelope. He's been in trouble, she admitted finally. Financial trouble, work trouble, and worse. My heart pounded. Worse how? She looked at me and the next words came out like they hurt to say, he's been getting threatened. My stomach turned. Threatened by who? I don't know, she said, voice breaking. He wouldn't tell me the details. He just kept saying he could fix it. That he had one more thing to do and then everything would be okay. I stared at the envelope like it was suddenly the most dangerous object in the room. So, what's in it? My aunt's voice dropped to a whisper. I think it's evidence, she said, or money, or a confession. My skin prickled. A confession? She nodded slowly. He told me last week that if something happened to him, there were things I needed to know. Things no one else could know, but he didn't say what. And then yesterday he pulled you aside. I felt dizzy. We have to call the police, I said. I already did, my aunt whispered. They told me to wait. They asked if he had enemies. If he had debts, if he had reasons to disappear. Disappear. Like people just vanish by choice. My aunt stared at the envelope again, her fingers hovering near the seal. I need to open this, she said, voice trembling. My heart slammed. He told me not to, I said quickly. He made me promise. She looked up at me, tears spilling now. Sam, he's missing, she said. If this tells us where he is, if this tells us what happened, then we have to know. My mouth went dry. My uncle's words echoed in my head. Don't open it, just bring it to me. But what if I couldn't bring it to him? My aunt's hand shook as she started to peel back the flap. And that's when it happened, the accident that wasn't really an accident. Because the truth is, the envelope was sealed with cheap glue, the kind that loosens with humidity. My aunt tugged once, too hard, and the flap tore unevenly. The papers inside slid out slightly onto the floor. We both froze. For a second. We just stared at the corner of a document sticking out like it was peeking at us. My aunt bent down slowly. And so did I. We didn't even speak. We didn't need to. The moment it opened even by accident, the promise felt like it had already been broken. The first thing that slid out wasn't money. It was photographs. I picked one up with shaking hands and my stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. It was my Uncle Rick, standing outside a building at night. A building I recognized immediately. It was my aunt's sister's house. My aunt made a sound like she'd been punched. No, she whispered. No, no, no. I flipped to the next photo. Rick again, closer this time, holding something in his hand near the door, a key. I felt cold. What is this? I whispered. Then the papers slid out more and I saw typed documents, emails printed out, bank statements, and a letter addressed to my aunt in Rick's handwriting. My hands trembled. As I unfolded the letter, because the second I saw his handwriting, I knew this wasn't a normal secret. This was a last message. Linda, it began. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't come back for it. My aunt's breath hitched like she was choking. I'm sorry. The letter continued. I'm sorry for the lies. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for dragging Sam into it, but I didn't have anyone else I could trust. You would have tried to stop me, and I can't afford to be stopped anymore. My vision blurred. Oh my God, I whispered. My aunt read over my shoulder, her face drained of color. Her knees buckled, and she sank onto the edge of my bed, clutching the letter like it was burning. The letter explained everything in brutal, careful detail. My uncle had been involved in something that started small, just helping a friend, just one favor, just a shortcut to make money back. But it grew. It always grows. He borrowed money from someone dangerous. He used his business accounts to move it around. He falsified paperwork. He thought he could fix it before anyone noticed. Then the threats started. He wrote that someone had been watching the house. That someone had followed him. That they told him if he went to the police, his family would pay the price. That's why he stayed quiet. That's why he kept saying he could fix it. Because he believed silence was protection. And then came the part that made my blood turn to ice. He wrote that he had made a deal to pay them back using something he had. Access to something connected to my aunt's sister's house. Something he could steal without anyone noticing. That's what the photos were. Proof that he had gone there, proof that he had keys, proof that he had been preparing something. Planning something. My aunt's voice broke. He was going to rob my sister? She whispered, horrified. He was going to use my family to pay criminals. I felt sick. He was desperate, I whispered. He thought it was the only way. My aunt looked at me, tears streaming. And he gave you this, she said, voice shaking with anger and pain. He gave you his confession. Like a bomb he didn't want to hold. The letter ended with one final line that made my skin crawl. If I don't come back, don't trust anyone who says they're helping. They already know about the envelope. My heart slammed. They know? I whispered. What does that mean? My aunt's eyes widened. Sam, where did you keep it? My dresser, I said, barely breathing. My aunt stood up fast, scanning my room like it had changed. Has anyone been in your apartment? I shook my head, but suddenly I wasn't. Sure, my landlord had done maintenance last week. My cousin had stopped by yesterday. My friend had borrowed a charger. The paranoia hit hard and fast. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Don't get involved. Give IT back. My blood ran cold. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. My aunt grabbed it and read the message, her face turning white. Oh my God, she whispered. Another message came immediately. We know where you live. I felt like I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was real. My aunt looked at me, voice shaking but determined. We're calling the police again, she said. Right now. And you're not staying here alone. We gathered everything, the letter, the photos, the printed emails, shoved them back into the envelope, and I called 911 with trembling fingers. I told the operator my uncle was missing, that we had a letter that sounded like a confession, and that we were receiving threats. The police arrived within 20 minutes. They took the envelope carefully, like it mattered, like it was evidence, which it was. They asked questions. They wrote things down. They took our phones to photograph the messages, and then one officer said something that made my stomach drop all over again. Your uncle's car was found, he said gently. Not far from his office. My aunt let out a sound I'll never forget. Not a scream, not a sob, something hollow. Something like her body was trying to protect her from the truth by turning her into stone. They launched an investigation. They questioned people. They looked at security cameras. They traced numbers. But the part that still haunts me is how close we came to making everything worse. Because if I had opened that envelope the night before alone, if I had panicked and tried to confront my uncle or warn someone without protection, whoever was watching might have acted sooner. The truth is, that envelope wasn't just paper. It was leverage. It was a confession. It was proof that my uncle had been trapped in something dangerous and was trying too late to leave a trail behind in case he didn't make it out. Weeks later, we learned more than we ever wanted. My uncle wasn't some mastermind criminal. He was a scared man who made a series of bad choices and then tried to fix them with more bad choices. He thought he was protecting his family by staying quiet, but the secrecy only gave the danger room to grow. And me? I couldn't stop thinking about that moment he pressed the envelope into my hands and said, "If anything happens, don't open it." He knew. He had to have known. He was handing me the truth like a weight he couldn't carry anymore. I still keep an empty envelope in my drawer now, not the same one, but one that looks similar. I don't know why. Maybe it reminds me to pay attention when something feels off. Maybe it reminds me that secrets aren't always dramatic. They're sometimes desperate, ugly, and real. And sometimes the worst moment isn't the one where you discover the secret. It's the moment you realize the person you trusted already knew how it would end.